For the first 5 years of our marriage, I lived a life most women only dream of. My husband, David, was a high-level finance manager who brought home million-dollar bonuses. I was the pampered housewife, insulated by wealth and status, but stability is an illusion. When conflicts in the Middle East caused his firm to suddenly file for bankruptcy, our golden life fractured. David was out of work. He spent 3 months at home, sending out a resume so intimidating that every local firm rejected him. He was overqualified, a polite word for unemployable. What a tragic waste of talent. Ironically, as his career sank, mine skyrocketed. I had started doing nails from our living room to pass the time. Within 6 months, that small hobby exploded into a luxury salon with a full staff. Suddenly, I was the one making the money. Everywhere I went, malls, galas, society weddings, people admired me. Even distant relatives who used to ignore us were suddenly calling to celebrate my empire. The success went straight to my head, and I became entirely blind to the man shrinking in my shadow. Since no firm would hire David, I generously offered him a job at my salon. He knew nothing about the beauty industry, so I assigned him the most menial tasks, carrying water, sweeping floors, and fetching drinks from my clients. I started treating him exactly like my other staff. I became bossy. I snapped at him in front of a packed salon using harsh, demeaning words. My employees would exchange uncomfortable glances, but I was so fueled by my own confidence that I didn't care. David never protested. He just lowered his head and said, "Yes, ma'am," like an obedient servant. I mistook his silence for submission, never realizing how deeply I was cutting his pride. The breaking point happened on a busy afternoon. David accidentally spilled a glass of water on Susie, my wealthiest and most influential client, the widow and CEO of a massive international tech firm. Susie immediately waved it off, insisting it was fine. But I wanted to prove who was in charge. "Bow and apologize to her," I demanded, pointing at the floor. Susie looked visibly uncomfortable, telling me it wasn't necessary, but I insisted. David froze for a second, his eyes dead and hollow, before he actually bowed to her. From that day on, Susie became a loyal weekly client. I felt vindicated. I told David not to take my harshness personally, that business is business. He was almost too quick to agree. Months passed, and the intimacy in our marriage evaporated. I was always too stressed or tired from running my empire to even look at him in bed. But whenever an invitation for a high society party arrived, my exhaustion magically vanished. "Do you want to come?" I'd ask him half-heartedly. "Are you going with your friends?" He would reply quietly. When I said yes, he'd just nod. "I'm tired. I don't want to bother you." I justified my neglect. I told myself I wasn't a normal wife, I was a prominent businesswoman. Every woman wanted to be me, and every man at those parties stared at me. Who cared if my husband stopped asking to make love? We were getting older, I thought. We didn't need romance to be a couple. Eventually, David stepped down from the salon. He started a small workshop, building and selling custom indoor furniture. We began living like ghosts. He practically lived at his workshop. I practically lived at my galas. The reality check hit me on our anniversary. I was at the mall buying groceries, thinking maybe I would finally try to be intimate with him again. I bumped into Susie. I casually asked why she hadn't been to the salon lately. "Oh, my company has been so busy finalizing a contract with David's workshop," she smiled. "We're buying thousands of pieces for our new offices. It's a $250,000 deal." I froze. My own husband had secured a massive corporate contract, and I had no idea. I forced a smile and lied to Susie, saying I already knew. But inside, a toxic mix of jealousy and fear boiled over. For the first time, I didn't view David as my husband. I viewed him as competition. I called him that afternoon, asking if he was coming home for our anniversary dinner. "No," he said flatly. I was furious, assuming he forgot. The next day, clients at my salon mentioned they missed David's coffee. "We saw him at Starbucks yesterday," one of them gossiped. He was with Susie. The salon went dead silent. Everyone was thinking the same thing. My husband was having an affair. That night, my paranoia consumed me. I searched his drawers looking for evidence, only to find a hidden box. Inside was a beautiful, expensive micro-brand watch, the exact kind he loved, with an engraving that read "Happy Anniversary." He hadn't forgotten our anniversary. He was just matching my energy, remembering how I had completely forgotten his the year prior. Suddenly, I heard him outside by his car. I rushed to the window and heard him on the phone, laughing. "I'll see you at the restaurant, Susie." My heart pounded. I had him. I called my girls, dressed to kill, and drove to the restaurant, ready to publicly destroy the woman stealing my husband. We kicked the private room door open, ready for a fight. But my jaw dropped. David wasn't on a romantic date. He was sitting at the head of a table with Susie and 15 other corporate executives, celebrating their finalized contract. I had humiliated myself, but that wasn't the end of it. The girls I had brought with me had their phones out. The confrontation didn't stay private. Rumors ripped through our city's elite circles by morning. This is where my entire world collapsed. I had forgotten who Susie really was. She wasn't just a client, she was the apex of our city's high society. In the weeks following my stunt at the restaurant, the consequences of my arrogance crashed down on me. Susie never retaliated publicly, but she didn't have to. The wealthy socialites who used to flood my salon quietly canceled their appointments. My VIP list evaporated. The friends who drank my champagne at galas suddenly stopped returning my calls. Without the high-end clientele, my overhead costs swallowed me whole. Within 2 months, I was hemorrhaging money. I had to lay off my staff. I had to sell the salon just to avoid bankruptcy. I found myself in the exact same position David had been in years ago, stripped of my identity, jobless, and completely humiliated. But unlike David, I had no one in my corner. That night, in our painfully quiet house, the dam finally broke. We sat in our living room, and he systematically listed every failure of my character. He talked about the resentment, the disrespect, the absolute coldness. He pointed out that since he lost his job, I hadn't asked him once how he was coping with his midlife crisis. I had a massive network of wealthy clients, yet it never even crossed my mind to help him find a job. Instead, I used him as a prop to boost my own ego. "Only Susie checked on me," he said, his voice entirely devoid of emotion. "Only Susie consulted me when I felt worthless. She gave me the furniture deal to help me get back on my feet, and instead of supporting me, you tried to publicly ruin her." I had no defense. Every word he spoke was a fact. To any man, my behavior was unforgivable. "I want a separation," he finally said, "and to be completely honest with you, Susie has made her feelings clear. She's waiting for me if this ends." My chest physically ached. A million tears fell silently inside me, but I refused to cry in front of him. "Okay," I whispered. "If that happens, I'll be happy for you both. You look good together." I was a coward to the very end. I couldn't even stand up and fight for my own marriage. From that day forward, we only spoke through lawyers. He is officially with Susie now. He runs a multi-million-dollar manufacturing business, and I am back to square one, counting pennies in a small apartment. As much as it burns, I genuinely hope they are happy. She saw the diamond in the rough while I treated him like dirt on my shoes. Let my ruined life be a lesson to you. Pay attention to the one who loves you before the cracks become canyons. Because once a good man finally walks out the door, he never comes back.